my name is Dani DiMarco, and I am the interpretation coordinator here at the Lehigh Valley Zoo.
Hello, I'm John Rossi. I'm a touring drummer with a passion for animal conservation. When I'm on the road, I spend as much time as possible visiting zoos, aquariums, and conservation organizations. Now, I want to share those places with you. I'll be talking to keepers, vets, conservationists, anyone who can help me in my mission of connecting my people to animals through their people. Join me on my Rossifari.
Hello, and welcome back to another exciting episode of the Rossifari podcast. Y'all, I love it when things just kind of work out, and that is the situation that you are going to be hearing today. Because many months ago, I went off to the Lehigh Valley Zoo in Pennsylvania to hang out with some people, but more importantly, with some penguins. The episode that you are about to hear, this interview was recorded entirely inside the penguin exhibit at the Lehigh Valley Zoo. And it was an awesome, awesome time. And, you know, I didn't know if I was going to talk penguins the whole time or if there was, other stuff to talk about. But it turns out that there's actually a whole lot that goes into taking pair of penguins. That's pair of penguins is what just came out of my mouth. Care of penguins was what I was going for. But either way. So this is a really fun, really good interview. I'm really excited to be sharing it with all of you, but I'm also loving the timing of this because it just so happens that our good friends at Penguins International have officially launched the March of the Penguin Madness 2023 competition. And one of the penguins involved is Bahati from the Lehigh Valley Zoo, who you are going to hear talked about on this podcast right now. So we are going to be sharing a lot of fun little things on social media about what penguins you should go and vote for. But I can tell you that right now in Division 1, Bahati is up against Ray from the Monterey Bay Aquarium. And while I, of course, have nothing against them, and I'm sure Ray is probably fine for a penguin that isn't as cool as Bahati, I'm going to encourage you all to go and vote for Bahati and to support Penguins International and raise awareness about the incredible work that they do, all whilst listening to the story of the penguins at the Lehigh Valley Zoo that you're about to get to hear. So I love that it timed out that way. I totally did not do that on purpose. Sometimes I do, but in this case, it just worked out, and it makes me really happy. So I'll have stuff up on socials to look into how to vote for that and everything, and I want you to support Lehigh Valley Zoo. Also, speaking of socials, don't forget that you should be following along at Rossifari on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, at Rossifari Pod on TikTok. Make sure that you hit subscribe on the podcast app that you are listening to so you don't miss any episodes of the Rossifari podcast. And of course, there is a Patreon. You can support the pod for as little as $3 a month by going to patreon.com/Rossifari. You could tell I just wanted to get through that part quickly, couldn't you? All right, well, it is time. Grab your big old boots and slide them on, put on a mask, and join me inside the penguin exhibit at the Lehigh Valley Zoo with Dani DiMarco. All right, and I'm hitting record now just so we have it running as we get in. And yeah.
Perfect. As we go in, we are going to, I'm just going to put this stuff down, but we have to spray our boots.
Okay.
At the bottom of our boots. So I'm just going to put this stuff down real quick and then we'll
Cool.
spray everything.
Yeah, I've never worn boots so high before. I'm walking, frankly, I'm waddling, which is convenient since we're at a penguin habitat.
Yes.
So, I am wildly entertained right now.
Yeah, the boots have to be high because it's about as high as a penguin.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So it is about as high as the penguins are. I can spray your boots if you want.
Thank you.
There you go. All right, perfect.
Hello, penguins.
All right. And then you can just shut the gate behind you. Perfect. I'll grab this stuff and we'll head over to the rocks.
Oh, this is lovely.
All right, Ticky Tick, we're walking in.
Hi, penguins.
All right, I'm going to throw some stuff down just in case they want to interact. And then if you want to just take a seat.
Yeah.
Move this out here.
Oh my goodness.
Perfect.
Hi,
All
penguins.
right.
And more importantly, no, less importantly, hello, Dani. How are you?
Hello, I'm good. How are you?
Good.
We are currently inside our African penguin habitat, and we are hanging out and about to be surrounded by our 11 African penguins.
Yeah, you're setting a high bar for future interviews. I'm not gonna lie. Normally, it's like I'll meet animals and then sit in a conference room, but we just hanging with the penguins.
We're just hanging with the penguins. We're going to be sitting on a couple rocks, which might not be the most comfortable seat, but I think the penguins make best guests.
Yes,
so
and also, I mean,
fine.
that's a good thing because I normally ramble and my butt is already sore, so this will keep me calm.
This will keep you centered and focused
Yes.
on what we're doing. Oh, yeah.
So let's start off by talking about you a little bit.
Sure.
Who are you? What made you fall in love with animals, and what was like the early phase of your career like?
Yeah, so I at first did not know I was going to be a zookeeper or do anything in terms of animals and zoos. I wasn't a fan of animals growing up. I am still technically afraid of dogs, not a big dog person, which is very funny to coworkers and friends because I work with a lot of animals and they find it weird that a person who works at a zoo does not like dogs.
I mean, I also find it weird, and that penguin just laughed at you. So
She did.
Yes.
Oh, yes. But I never thought I would work with animals or work in a zoo. So I actually did an undergraduate degree at Arcadia University. It's down in Glenside, Pennsylvania. And I studied just general biology there.
Okay.
So I was mostly focused on conservation. It's a big medical school, so they do a lot more pre-med, pre-PT. But I knew I wanted to do conservation-based stuff, and I studied trees and plants
Ew.
for my undergrad.
Ew.
I know. I didn't expect it, but I ended up studying trees and plants, and it was pine trees in Maryland, and was not expecting to end up with animals, but I kind of worked my way through different positions. I worked for Fish and Wildlife as an intern for a year in New Mexico, and I did invasive species removal and fell in love with the world of conservation and really kind of on the ground field work. And then slowly moved into what else I do. I worked at a 4-H center for a little bit where I worked a bit of conservation, teaching children and working with animals, which is kind of how I ended up in zoo jobs. That was my start into animal conservation and then teaching children. And then I worked at my first AZA zoo in Alabama at the Birmingham Zoo.
Nice. Okay.
and
Great place.
then it was I loved it there. I learned so much. It was my first zoo job, so definitely was the learning curve there.
Right, yeah.
Kind of getting all the rules, regulations, because it's an AZA zoo, so trying to learn everything I could. And then about 2 years ago, I ended up here, and I'm from this area, so this was me kind of coming back home.
Okay, that's very cool.
Yeah.
Sorry, distracted. There's a penguin.
There's a penguin chilling and hanging out.
Yeah, very good, very good. But yes, so okay, it's funny. Yesterday, I got into a conversation with a fan of mine who we were talking about invasive species removal,
Yes.
and that kind of thing. And it's funny. I love how like the world works that way sometimes, you know. So even though we will obviously get to the zoo and everything,
Yeah.
Since you have some experience in that, like, what are your thoughts on it? Because that's something I understand the need for euthanasia, and I understand that invasive species are a problem. And I always say this podcast is pro euthanasia because, zoos euthanize animals when it is for their quality of life and all the good reasons. We talk about it on here all the time. But I've always struggled a bit with the idea of like euthanasia and stuff for invasive species removal. So would you just talk about that and share some of your insight?
Yeah, sure. So I did a mix of plant and animal removal. Most of it, so in New Mexico, they have a Russian olive that is the biggest force that is really going after things, and then a salt cedar, a tamarisk as well. So there's two big plants that are changing the landscape and changing the ecosystem as a whole. So I think that's the biggest issue right now for them with terms of plants is that these salt cedars are taking up areas and they're changing the ecosystem. They're beating native plants out, which is changing the habitat for birds and mice and some of their endangered animals there. So removal of these plants is the first step to habitat restoration. And that's the biggest goal, is trying to reset these habitats so that they have a more native population. Whereas right now it's a lot more of giant stacks of these Russian olives and these salt cedars, the tamarisk plants. So that was a really big thing of just trying to remove stuff. And then once we removed the plants, we would have teams come in afterward and replant and repopulate with native willows. So the biggest thing, that was most of the plants. And then the most animals I worked with was the bullfrog, which is a really big problem over there. It was introduced to remove mosquitoes.
Okay.
And bullfrogs don't eat mosquitoes.
Oh, good,
So
good,
it eats everything but that. So
Good.
that's the biggest problem there, is that they're introduced for something that doesn't actually help happen. So one of the biggest things was removing the bullfrogs. They were finding, some of the Fish and Wildlife staff were finding that they were eating I think it's a jumping mouse, an endangered jumping mouse.
Oh, okay.
So it was a big problem in that area because it was eating endangered animals. So
Right. Yeah.
that was one of the things in the summertime, was interns and other staff members were just in charge of capturing the bullfrogs as well. So I understand the kind of hesitation in terms of euthanasia and removing living things from an environment. But from a habitat restoration and an ecosystem standpoint, if we don't remove them, there is no chance of creating healthy ecosystems for the plants that already exist there and the animals that already exist there.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I know it logically. I really
Yeah.
do. I don't know why I struggle with it more than most. Like my wife is a vet.
Yeah.
This stuff doesn't faze me normally, but with that, also a lot of times like turtles are a big problem with that, and
Oh, yeah.
red-eared sliders and stuff. And I am a huge turtle fan, so I think I just get sad sometimes. But
Yes. Yeah, it definitely isn't the best job. It's not the most fun job, I would say.
Right.
You're not sitting there enjoying the work as much, but it is something that is a necessity and someone's got to do it. And in order to rebuild habitats, and that's something zoos can also be a part of in terms of rebuilding habitats, is trying to reintroduce a species into an environment. You need to make sure it's healthy first. So the first step of restoring the habitat to reintroduce animals or plants is to remove the things that are not supposed to be there. So in order to utilize zoos and their animal populations or whatever they have to reintroduce and rebuild a habitat, first we need the habitat to be healthy, which involves getting rid of the non-natives and invasives there.
that makes sense. And I like that you phrased it in terms of plants first, because I just don't care about plants as much.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, yeah, I'm on board. And then I'm like, oh, and I guess animals too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually just released a Zoo News episode where they found that native bird populations are disappearing in certain places
Yes.
because of non-native insects, or not keeping up as many native insects because of non-native plants being planted, just like in gardens and stuff. And I found that so fascinating. It's like, who would think that, your garden could affect birds? But yeah.
We have
interesting.
a native habitat here at the zoo. It's a bird-friendly habitat a backyard habitat to increase native insects, to help the native birds. And that's one of the biggest things to help the animals. We also have to help the plants. It is all connected, which we don't realize at first because you just want to kind of get those animals back out there. But without the healthy ecosystem around those animals, and it's not going to work. So got to fix the ecosystem first before we can put animals back out there.
Yeah, no, definitely makes sense to me. All right, so let's talk about where we are right now, which is the penguin habitat at the zoo here. Tell me about the penguins.
Yeah, so we have 11 African black-footed penguins. They are a mix of social and non-social penguins. A few of them do enjoy, I would say, coming up near people, walking around. We do our encounters in here, kind of where the space we're at now. We're on a bunch of rocks in the middle of the habitat. And a lot of our penguins will come interact with some of the enrichment on the ground. And some of our penguins don't care. They would rather be off on their own in the back of the habitat. And we give them that choice to do so. So once we're in here, it's just their option to come up to us, their option not to. But we just renovated this habitat. So it's brand new facing, lots of new rock in here to make it look more like a South African rocky beach.
Yeah, the last time I was here, it was a South African construction plot. And I didn't actually get to see it. And I was like, oh, okay. I heard that it was going to be renovated. And now it's awesome to see the great work that was done. It really is beautiful. Take a minute to describe it to the audience.
Sure. So we have our giant pool in the center, and it's surrounded by rocks. And in a couple of places, one of the big construction points was we have more of a ramp system now for the penguins to get out, because we do have some older penguins. Our oldest penguin is about 20 years old.
Okay.
So we do have some older penguins. So it is a little bit more accessible for our penguins who are older, who have a little bit of a harder time to get in and out of the pool. But it's surrounded by rocks. We have some really big rocks, some 2 to 3 feet tall ones that they can hop up on. We have a center island in the middle that they can hop up on, and that's where they get fed. So on that center island, our keepers walk across a bridge. They sit on the center and they feed our penguins right in the middle, which is a great point for guests to come see. We do it around 11 o'clock and 2 o'clock every day, 3 o'clock in the summertime, so that guests can see and interact with our penguins.
Nice. Very cool. Tell me about the birds. Tell me about some individuals and stuff, personalities, like, all that good stuff. Because I know they got them.
Oh, they do. They do. Our keepers, so we can tell them apart. They all have a banding system, so there's colors on their wings. If you see a penguin with one on the left, that's a female. The right is a male. But we can also tell them apart just what they're doing. So we have some penguins that are mischievous, and they like to get into trouble. That's usually Bahati. She has a purple band on the left. She hatched out here in 2017. So she is one of the penguins that has been here her whole life. So she's very comfortable with us, which means she is one that will come and play with our boots and really interact with people. We have some penguins that interact more with each other. So we have Curtis. He's another penguin who sometimes comes on program. He has a blue band on him, and he definitely enjoys the keeper's legs a lot. He likes to walk around and follow everybody. During feed time, he is the most enthusiastic to eat. So that's always a fun. They're hand fed, so our keepers have to be trained to hand feed them in terms of very sharp beaks.
Yes,
So he is usually the most enthusiastic when eating. So he's the one you got to watch out for when you're handing fish to penguins. That's for sure. But yeah, they all have their own. I know there's a couple of penguins who really prefer not to be near anybody at all. And they kind of just hang out on their own, and they come over when the group is over. And if the group's not over, they don't care at all. That's mostly like Hattie does that a lot. She has a white band on. She doesn't care too much about anybody. She does her own thing, which is totally fine.
What kind of personalities do they exhibit with each other, as far as like how is the culture of the team? Team Penguin.
Oh, Team Penguin is a soap opera. That is for sure. We definitely, so most of our penguins are mated up. So we have a mix of 6 females and 5 males. So most of our penguins have a mate. We do have a couple, I think 2 extra females versus the males right now. But they are really funny. So sometimes they'll stay together. So penguins, these guys are monogamous, but that only means for breeding season. So each year that could potentially change.
Right.
Sometimes it doesn't. We have some penguins that have been together for long periods of time, couple of years, which is great. We did recently have a change up in our system, and a penguin has changed her mind. And we have had a whole soap opera of changes that has occurred because of that. So our keepers are always watching and paying attention to the penguins to see who is with who and who likes it, who doesn't like it. We let it play out as much as we can. We try not to interact too much with their society and the colony, and kind of let them do what they need to do. But if it ever gets to a point where we need to kind of step in, we can. But we try to let them fend for themselves and figure it out on their own as a colony before we step in and separate if we need to. But they are definitely a soap opera of changes.
That's hilarious. I have a question though. So you know, they're making their choices and you're trying to let them make their choices.
Yes.
But you're an AZA accredited facility, which means SSP breeding, and we're not just going to have random chicks flopping around.
Yes.
So how do those two dynamics play out?
Yeah, so we do, we are part of the SSP program for African penguins. So right now we have penguins that are part of the SSP, and they do have recommended pairs. Currently, we don't have any of those pairs actually together, of course.
Right.
So we are working on different ways to change the social structure, but it's not as easy because they've already bonded emotionally with each other. So right now we're working on just penguin welfare of what's best for the penguins. And if the SSP recommendation is not what's best for them at the moment, then right now they're just living with their selected mate and who they want to be with.
And then are they on like some kind of birth control or something? Or like what happens in that situation?
I think some of our penguins could be, I don't think at the moment, but we haven't had any eggs right now.
Okay.
So a lot of our penguins were just kind of waiting to see. We haven't had eggs in a little bit. We did redo the habitat so we have more nesting spots, because that was another problem, is the old habitat didn't have enough for all the penguins. So now you can't really tell, but there are nesting spots around here. It looks like piles of leaves, but they're actually penguin nests. So,
nice.
hopefully in the future, I know there are plans to kind of get us back on track with the mating and make sure all of the penguins are with the right one. It's just a very delicate situation. And I think they're trying to potentially get a different colony workup first before we actually make big changes to our penguins at the moment.
That makes sense. And I'm curious though, okay, so let's say that the SSP says that Bob and Anna should be together.
Yes.
I'm making up names,
That's
obviously.
Okay. Understandable.
And so, but Bob's off with someone else and Anna's off with someone else.
Yes.
Will you go back to the SSP and say like, hey, Bob is currently with Jolene, and do those genetics work? Or is it just like at that point, you're just like, we'll try again that, we'll try to figure this out another time.
Yeah, so we can. So we could say, could you match these two up and see what their genetics look like?
Okay, cool.
They are already with each other. What is that match? What does that look like? And most of the times it's like, man, that's not the best. Right. It's not ideal. We matched them up with a different penguin for a reason. So then at that case, we would take a look at our penguins and figure out the easiest way for them to be reintroduced to another penguin, because they do separate all the time. So I think it would depend on how long they've been with a specific penguin. And our senior keepers usually will monitor that change of how things go about. So sometimes that could be keeping all the penguins together in a specific place and just introducing the new penguin and seeing if things change up, how that changes the interaction, because adding a new penguin could completely change the dynamic and new friends always emerge. But it also could just be taking penguins around and removing them from spaces and introducing them in a private setting together to see if you can form that bond. But it would be one that our lead keeper and our assistant curator and vets would kind of monitor to make sure that penguins are still emotionally okay and watching their behaviors before we kind of force them out of a colony. We don't want to force them out of a position that they're already really comfortable in, because in the end we want them just to have the best welfare before we move up their entire social structure.
No, yeah, of course, that makes a lot of sense. That's cool. Man, it's funny to think about those different dynamics interacting.
Oh, yes.
Oh, geez, this couple's together. Maybe we're going to play some Weird Al, and then when we introduce them to a new one, we're gonna do some Silk Sonic and see what happens. Just try some stuff.
Yeah, it's a soft introduction at first, just to see how we get along with the rest of the colony. Because just a new penguin in general is going to change up the colony, where people are going to get jealous just because they have a friend. We do have some jealous friends already that are like, this is my man and you don't touch my man. And introducing anyone new is going to also change up that effect anyway. So
cool. What is the social structure like outside of breeding? Is there like a dominant penguin, or how does that all work?
There's not really a dominant penguin per se. I think some of them are just a little bit more eager if it goes to eating and certain things. So I don't think one penguin has to eat over another or gets better nesting sites. Some of them are just a little bit more, I would say, dominant over the others, but it's not really, we have an alpha penguin and then the rest kind of go from there. We definitely have some who just are more enthusiastic when eating. So they eat first just because they're more enthusiastic about it. But we keep track of how much our penguins eat. We record every single penguin and how much they eat every day. So in the end, everyone gets to eat, and they're not going to be anyone left out. But some of our penguins are just a little bit more pushy than others in terms of getting what they want. And the other ones kind of just fall into line, and they're pretty cool with it. But I wouldn't say we have one specific penguin that outweighs the others. It also depends on age. Some of our penguins, when they've been here longer, are a more established couple. We have one penguin that lives under that rock.
Nice.
Cunye and Bariti live underneath that rock, which to me looks like the best site ever.
Yeah.
It was like the best nest site, and I don't know how, because they're two of our just middle-aged penguins. Bree's one of our youngest. I don't know how they got that site and what happened in the colony to earn that one. But they have that site, and that's been their site now for almost 2 years. So it's really fun to see who gets what site and when they change it up and when they don't.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, we had some friends living in this grassy area behind us. There's a nice little opening. They moved the grass around. So there's nests everywhere, and they kind of pick what they prefer. And I don't know if there's fights over the areas that they want, probably for a little bit, but I don't think it's anything super crazy.
Right. Cool. I know that African black-footed penguins are from Africa.
Yes.
But they also have black feet. See? Biology right there.
They do, but some of them have pink. So if you look out there, some of them, even the one up there, she has a little bit of pink on her feet.
Okay.
Yeah, so some of them have more of a pink foot than a black foot.
Is that just a pigmentation thing, or
yeah,
Okay.
And it depends on the penguins. So some of them
cool.
have more black than others.
Yeah.
It depends on the penguin. It just is really fun to point out that they don't actually have black feet.
No, that's really funny. And of course, we have masks on, so I had my glasses off because they fog up, and I didn't even see that. That's really funny.
Yeah, some of our penguins don't even have black feet.
Yeah, cool. But so where are they at in Africa?
Yeah, so it's going to be the coastlines of South Africa and the coastlines of Namibia. Those are the two countries that you're going to find them, but then they're mostly going to live in the water. So they spend about 4 months of their life just out in the water, not on land. And then they come on land for the breeding season. So most of their life is going to be spent out in the water hunting for fish and just kind of chilling. And then once it's breeding season, they come on land, find their mate or make a nest, and then do their thing on land.
All right, that's cool. What is their status? Endangered or?
Yeah, so they were just taken to critically endangered. 2019 or 2020, I think it was. IUCN brought them down from endangered to critically endangered.
We're being invaded.
Hello, friends. They're coming around. They're coming to say hey.
Hey, y'all.
But they are critically endangered.
Okay.
So that's due to a lot of different things. Overfishing is one of them. I know that they're fishing close to shores, so the penguins now have to swim further. It's not that there's not as much fish, it's just not as close to the shores anymore. So that's the problem for our penguins. It's a lot more taxing on their environment, on their bodies to swim out and catch fish. And then also just general nesting sites. So there's a problem with beach access. We share beaches with people. People and penguins don't really mix too much. So that's a problem of just making sure that we have enough space for them. And then also their requirements for nests sometimes could not be there. So the nests may not always be as successful. So the biggest problem is just interacting with humans right now and trying to figure out the best way to interact with them and to give them their space, but then also coexist at the same time.
The biggest problem is always humans.
As always, it goes down to us.
Yeah.
And it's just how we can best coexist with them at the same time.
That's real. Very real. Oh my goodness, I just keep getting distracted. Maybe I was saying
so
you're
anyway,
setting a high
you guys
bar.
are listening, but there are currently about 7 penguins that just walked up behind us and they're just staring at us.
Yeah, it was really funny. They came up in a group and are just staring. I'm guessing it's near feeding time?
It is. I just looked at my watch to check. So they eat at 11 o'clock and they know the drill. They know the schedule. So it is currently 10:58. So they know exactly what time it is and they know it's getting close to feeding time.
They're
so
like,
they're
hello,
looking around
do you
and they're
have
trying
fish?
to figure out when they're going to get a chance to eat, which is so funny.
This is hilarious.
But yeah, so this is our one of our youngest. That's Baridi. She was hatched out in 2016. And then that's Curtis. We have Greer, who has Green Greer. That's how I remember
You
her.
said Greer, and Greer looked right up. Instantly was just like, you calling me?
Oh, some of them know their names.
Yeah,
then
clearly.
We have Chai. She's our oldest right there.
Oh my
She's
goodness.
20. We have Dawn, and I can't see. I think that's Lionel, maybe. We have a red band on. So yeah, it's hard to remember their names sometimes, but it's definitely the mnemonic words. What are the words for the acronyms or the different things we use?
Oh, the mnemonics.
Mnemonic,
Yes,
yeah.
yes,
Greer
yes.
is my big one in my brain.
I like it.
So I can remember her.
Oh, man.
But we do have multiple out there. So we have 2 oranges, but one's a female, one's a male.
Right.
So trying to just remember which one you're looking at, or if you're looking at the left or right, try to get out your lefty righties. Trying to be like, which arm am I looking at? Where am I at? How do I know which one's which?
Hi, Greer. Hi. I know your name now. There you go.
As we walk right through us.
I love it.
Oh, yeah.
So, are the penguins one of the more popular exhibits here?
Oh, yes. So we are a smaller zoo. So in terms of very large animals, penguins are one of the big ones in terms of popularity. We have 2 giraffe here.
Including Tatu. We all know Tatu.
Oh, yeah. So we have our 2 giraffe. We have some zebra, ostrich. So we definitely have some of our bigger animals, but these guys are one of the main ones. And it's the first exhibit you see when you walk into the zoo. It's right down the opening path here. So this is one of the main animals people see. And it's one of our most popular encounters we book, is bringing people in here to meet these guys because they are such cool animals.
And most people that are meeting them aren't trying to record a podcast and distracted. And which actually
You're
I remembered the question I was starting to ask you when we got invaded, because that was hilarious.
We did get invaded, yes.
Are there any conservation organizations that y'all partner with or help out with, or anything that work with penguins?
Yeah, so we work with the AZA, the Association of Zoos and Aquariums. We work with The
They have
SSP.
I was going to say they have a safe program as well, right?
Yes.
For African penguins. Am I remembering correctly?
Yep. So we have a safe program as well. One of our director of conservation is part of their safe program.
Oh, nice.
Actually,
Okay, cool.
which is really awesome. So we work closely with them in terms of just conservation and promotion of their conservation status and different things people can do. And then we work with SANCOB, which is the organization on the ground in South Africa that is actively working on restoring habitat, helping penguins that are injured and that sort of thing. So it's kind of working with those SANCOB mostly, and then AZA SSP programs as well, are the three big ones.
Okay, cool. Very good. Yeah, I have partnered up a couple of different times on things with Penguins International,
Yes.
who really help SANCOB a lot, along with doing other stuff. Katie Prop is a big friend of the pod, and she is their she's their goddess. I don't know. She does all the things.
Oh yeah.
She is the Penguins International as far as I am concerned. But yeah, okay. Well, that's very cool. I love the work that SANCOB does.
They are, yeah.
Yeah, their Punta San Juan project is amazing. and
Yeah,
just
I think they
astonishing.
do a great job of on the ground work, really educating on what they're doing. I think I've looked at their website a million times when trying to talk to guests about different conservation efforts that are out there. They do a really good job of kind of making public the work that they're doing and making it accessible for people to learn about as well, which is pretty great.
Yeah. Hey, there's a penguin swimming.
There is a penguin swimming.
They can do that.
They can do that. Oh my goodness.
Look at
I
the little
love
butt
them.
wiggle. Oh my
yeah.
goodness.
Fixing all those feathers.
Oh, that's so cool. So that's a thing, isn't it? That like they really like, I know that like you can't like just go up to birds and like pet them for many reasons, but also the feather thing. But like preening and stuff is a big part of being a bird and being a penguin, right?
Yes. So their feathers, they have two layers of feathers, one that we can't see and the one that we can. So underneath all the pretty feathers we see is their down layer. It's really warm. It traps air close to their body. And then the ones that we can see, it's a really small feather that's tightly compacted. So if you were to close your hand into a circle, and about that area is 70 feathers.
Okay.
So they're really tightly compacted together to keep them waterproof, so that the down feather underneath doesn't get wet, because that getting wet, not going to be a good idea for them. So they do a lot of work cleaning and making sure they're all in the right way. They have an oil gland at the base of their tail to help keep them waterproof, that they can spread around their feathers. So they'll use that oil gland to kind of help their feathers be waterproof as well. They do have feathers on their wings. If they're very, very small, but you can kind of see them when they're up close, there are feathers all over them, which is really cool. So they do a lot to keep their feathers, and it's really good for socialization between penguins to preen each other. So couples will preen each other, and that's kind of how they form their bonds, which is really cool. So you can watch which penguins are closer to each other based off of who's cleaning who.
Nice. Is that just a romantic pairing thing, or will like besties do it as well?
Besties can do it as well. So we have seen, we have a mother-daughter combo in here. Bahati's mom is in here, and sometimes we can see her preening as well. So it is sometimes just besties hanging out that are preen. So that's kind of one of the ways they can form those social relationships together.
Nice, very cool. Do y'all have a and I know sometimes penguins come from other zoos and stuff,
Yeah.
but in general, do y'all have a naming system, or is it all just random, or?
Most of it is random. Sometimes it depends how we got to the name. Our keepers usually come up with names. Sometimes we've had votes on names. We've opened it up to the public to vote on names as well. It just depends on the penguin themselves or just the animal and how we got it, if we're renaming a penguin or if we're keeping the name that they have. So I think it's really keeper focused in terms of what we do with names. Usually we keep names penguins come with for the most part.
Right.
But it does, I know that our two penguins, or we had three penguins hatch out here. Two of them are still here. One kind of got sent to another facility, but the two penguins that stayed, it was a keeper decision in terms of their names.
Nice. I actually really like when keepers are able to name animals. I think that is a cool little perk for the people that love them the most.
Yeah, definitely.
And just as a side note, Rossifari would make a great penguin name. I'm just saying, just
Oh my God. I worked with
putting
an
it into the
opossum
world.
that was named Ross.
Oh my gosh,
Oh
that's
man,
great.
that'd be perfect.
That's awesome. All right. So, are we doing feeding time here soon, or how's that going to work?
Yeah,
or?
we're probably getting close to it. We have our
Cool.
assistant curator is in the back, and it looks like another keeper just showed up. So when they feed, they go out to the center island.
Right.
They'll tap on a bucket 3 times as like the cue to eat, but
Nice.
the penguins usually know what's about to happen anyway. And then another keeper comes up as well, and they have a clipboard, and they keep track of everything because the one keeper is going to call out everything that happens. So I think they're going to come out in a couple minutes, and we'll get to see a feed,
That's
which
really
is always
exciting.
super cool.
Yeah.
Hi, Chicky Chicks.
Is there anything else that you want to say about these particular penguinos?
I think the coolest thing about these guys is just being able to see them in zoos and aquariums. I think the fact that they're critically endangered is really important, that we can have them here in the United States just to get a chance to see them and build a connection with them. I know there's a lot of animals that are endangered or critically endangered that we don't have that opportunity to see up close.
Right.
So I would definitely suggest taking a look at animals that are critically endangered or endangered and looking at local zoos and aquariums and seeing who has what animals so that you can really build a connection, and talking to keepers as well to get the inside scoop of the animals you're meeting, because they do have different personalities. So I just find it's really awesome and a privilege to get to work with some animals that are critically endangered.
No, yeah, absolutely. In starting to do this podcast and everything, I've had the opportunity to meet, so many critically endangered animals, and every single time, every single one of them, I just don't take it for granted at all. Every time it blows me away.
There we go.
It's just a beautiful thing. Oh, it's feeding time.
It's feeding time. Here we go.
Charge! Awesome. Very cool.
You can see the
They are
chain.
so excited.
Yeah,
Some more
so-
than others, like you said.
Half of our penguins will go in the water to get to the center island, and the other half will walk on the bridge behind her.
That's really fun.
So it just depends on the penguin, but you will see some
Penguin
run with
parade.
her, which is always so fun.
Which one is the one that ran? Can you tell?
I can't. I think that's Dawn.
Okay.
Is my best guess. I can't see, so it's a
Well,
left
that's okay.
penguin. Yeah, it was Dawn.
It's a visual podcast, or it's not a visual podcast, so you can lie too.
No,
But-
you're good.
but-
That was Dawn. Dawn sits behind them every time. That's her spot, so that's how I know it was her.
That's adorable.
They all have their own spots at times.
I love this so much.
So they eat a mix of different types of food. So we have sardines, capelin, sprat, smelt, whatever is available, and then also what nutrient-wise what they need.
Right.
So right now she's yelling out the name of the fish and then the vitamin. So we inject vitamins every morning. So just like you and I get a vitamin every day, she does as well. So we feed the penguins a vitamin, which is helpful for them. Make sure they get all the nutrients they need, especially if maybe they're not eating all the different types of food. If they have a favorite food, which they do. The sardines are not their favorite, but we give them out first, and then usually capelin or smelt is afterward, or the sprat, and those are like the cheeseburger fish. They're the good fish. They're the ones they want, so they get those second. But you'll see the frenzy when that bucket comes out. You're gonna visibly see the frenzy when the capelin come out.
That's awesome. But let me be real
Go
clear
for it.
here. I do not get a vitamin every day. These penguins eat much better than I do. Are taken much better care of than I am. Let's just be real clear on that.
Oh yeah, and they can eat up to a pound of fish a day each.
Amazing.
So it's a lot of fish, which is one of the reasons we keep track of everything, is just in terms of logistics, knowing how much we have to pull, because they're frozen thawed fish. So just knowing how much we have to pull, but then also we keep track, because if they're molting, they're going to increase how much fish they eat.
Right.
So just kind of knowing health-wise what they're doing, how much they're eating, when they're eating, all that sort of stuff.
It's really interesting to see the care that goes into the feeding too, because as I'm watching this, not only is, I'm sorry, what did you say her name was?
This is Caitlin.
Caitlin? Okay. Not only is Caitlin making sure that everyone gets, what they need and everything, and calling it out like you said.
Yeah.
But also is like really watching, like Lionel, who just ate, dropped the fish 3 times.
Yes.
And Caitlin made darn sure that fish did not get picked up by another penguin, got into Lionel's mouth, and then called it out. It's just cool to see that care going into it, because, there are a lot of penguins over there right now, and it could easily be, if that fish had just fallen, then somebody else could have gotten that fish and the extra vitamin, and Lionel wouldn't have gotten the whole thing. And not the end of the world for one day, but very cool to see. It's kind of crazy to watch, like, the amount of care that goes into what looks like a bit of a cluster.
So it does, and I think I give props to all of our keepers who go on that island, because some of the penguins only eat this fish a certain way. So head first, tail first, sideways from another penguin themselves. Some of our penguins will only eat if they can steal it. So it's really fun to watch them, because they know kind of who does what and what they have to do to get that penguin to eat. So she'll flip fish upside down or whatever to make it the easiest for them to eat, because they are very picky. So it's really fun to watch them, and I think it's such a skill to see the penguins, know who they are, because you can't always see their band.
Right, yeah.
Just knowing who they are based off of their face, their coloration, maybe their feet or something. I know we can tell them apart, some of them by what colors are on their feet, because one of them has more pink than any other penguin, so you can tell her apart.
Sure.
So that's always really cool to watch.
Yeah, no, the whole thing's really fascinating. It's Lionel got one from Curtis there.
Yeah, we'll steal. They'll steal from another penguin. It's a fun time to watch.
But even even saying that happened once or whatever, like I said, it's fascinating. Like you said, it's I know that when I'm up close with animals, I never feel any kind of like fear or pressure or anything.
Yeah.
And obviously, if you're a keeper, you're going to feel even less.
Mm-hmm.
But like, it is a horde, and they are excited and they are moving around, and it's not like, well, 10 of them are moving around.
You have our two friends in the back who are just chilling.
Yeah. Chicky and Don are just standing behind and are the smartest ones.
Oh, yeah. They always get fed. They're just chilling in the back.
Yeah, that is
There's
so smart.
No fight.
But all the other ones are just moving around and constantly reorganizing themselves and looking really cute doing it. I'm a big fan of this. The whole thing.
Oh, man.
Very cool.
It's time now, don't you know? We've come to the end of the show. But there's one tale left to go. You're gonna laugh and say, oh no. It's time for the Rossifari poop story.
I got so many. It's like, which one do I want to tell? Which one's the best one? I think the best one was... So our penguins, some of them are program penguins and they go out on program. So right now with bird flu, there's a lot of restrictions, but when there wasn't bird flu, back way when, can't remember that time. But we were able to take them on program. They would do tabletop presentations and we would have a penguin on the table. Mm-hmm. And penguins projectile poop.
Yes.
To keep their poop out of their nest. Which also means they projectile poop on people when they're on the table. So I remember during one of our tabletop presentations, and penguin poop is one of the most disgusting poops I've ever worked with because it gets everywhere. And then when it dries, it solidifies into a solid.
Yay!
It's gross. But I was doing a presentation with one of our penguins, I believe it was Bahati, and she, right in the middle of the presentation, right on my stomach and down my thigh, pooped all over me.
Nice.
Which was not the best, not the best way to finish a program and then have to go and try to wash it off and clean. But I walked around for about 30 minutes at that point because she was still on the table with poop on my body for the entire program.
Nice.
Which was a good sign. But yeah, so penguin poop is not a fun one. It's projectile. So she was probably about 2 feet in front of me, so I wasn't expecting it. And then I just saw the little lean forward and the tail go up, and before I can move, it happened.
Oh, that's awesome.
So yeah.
I didn't know that it was like to keep the poop out of their nest. I never thought about why. I knew that it was projectile poop.
Yeah.
But that's really cool.
Yeah, so they use their poop to help build their nest because it solidifies it a little bit, and it keeps it... it can help insulate it, keep all the rocks or whatever they're using together. But too much poop is not sanitary, and it would definitely cause some issues if it continuously built up every day. So it's so that they can kind of stay in one space and shoot it out away from them.
Right. No, that's really cool. Do you know about the guano farming?
Yes.
Situation? I find that whole thing fascinating.
Yes.
And I know that's not black-footed penguins, but it is other African penguins that are, people are farming their guano, and some penguins actually build their nests out of their guano. And so now Sandcob is setting up.
Illegal.
It's
illegal to take penguin poop at this point.
And Sandcob is making nest boxes to replace the guano, because even though it's illegal, so is poaching, so is everything.
Exactly.
That's cute.
So it's a nice step, at least, to have some type of enforcement as long as it's being enforced.
No, yeah, of course,
But it definitely is. I don't think people realize just how that people want their poop so bad.
Yeah.
That's definitely a hard thing to tell people. Yeah, they really want their poop. They scour the beaches and clean up penguin poop.
Yeah. There's actually Penguins International.
It's a whole industry.
Yeah, it really is. And Penguins International just worked on a student film, but it just got a thing called White Gold. Yeah. Which I think is a hilarious name when it's poop.
It's poop.
It's poop.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to do this.
Of
this has been great.
Oh, this has been great. I loved it, and they loved it. They loved meeting everybody and hanging out and walking around us.
One was even playing with the slinky.
They did.
It was very cool.
Interacted with the shiny slinky.
Yes, I love it.
I think it was Don. Thanks, Don. Thanks for your appreciation. I appreciate you, Don. Thanks for your participation today. I'll write that down. I'll write that down in my notes. We participated.
Oh my God. Okay, so I was just gonna go, but real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
You were saying how some of them feel the need to steal or whatever.
Yeah.
And she just took one of the capelin, held it right over a penguin, and then shot it to another one who was already trying to steal it, and it was clearly like an intentional thing.
Oh.
Like she like let them steal it. Oh, this is.
Oh, it's
So cool to see.
It's a skill out there.
Yeah,
It's a skill,
yeah.
and I love watching it because it's a fun time watching these penguins and watching our keepers try and feed them.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you very much.
Yeah, of course, no problem. This has been great.
Okay, there you have it. You have now listened to an episode about the amazing penguins at the Lehigh Valley Zoo. So, of course, I want to remind you again to go to Penguins International's social media pages and vote for Bahati. We need to get the friends of the podcast penguins through to the next round until they're competing against each other, and then I get scared and stop suggesting who anyone should vote for. But yeah, for right now, we're going to support Bahati, and I'll let you know who else we're going to be supporting on the social media channels. It's all going to be based on who supports this podcast, right? Because clearly only the best penguins can appear on the Rossifari podcast. And speaking of the best penguins, I would like to say thank you to my best penguins, Laura Schenk and Kristen Dickey, who are my Red Panda level patrons, and to all of my patrons who support the podcast. I appreciate y'all so much. There's no bonus audio this week, but that's because we will be back at Lehigh Valley Zoo for another episode next week, and I did get patron audio at that point. So yeah, thank you all for your support, whether it be as a patron or by telling people about the podcast, because honestly, y'all, it makes a huge difference, or just by being here and listening. I love the community that we have. I love y'all, and I appreciate y'all so much. One final thing that I wanted to tell you is that the way that a penguin says the word credits backwards is... The Rossifari podcast is produced, hosted, and engineered by John Rossi. Editing and fact-checking by John and Dr. Zoe Rossi. Our theme song is Sevens by Nathan Burke, performed by Nathan and John. Interrupting John theme and additional voices by Taylor Isaac Gray. You can reach John directly on Instagram and Facebook at Rossifari or by email at rossifaripod@gmail.com. Rossifari is part of the Daydreamer Media Network. Now, stop listening to me and go visit a zoo.